People say Bitcoin is a store of value, but let's start with something simpler. A squirrel. A squirrel spends the fall burying acorns in hundreds of little hiding spots. That's his store of value. He puts food away now so he can survive the winter later. Now imagine he comes back to one of those caches and 30% of the acorns are gone. And the other squirrels tell him, "Relax, bro. Zoom out. Think long term. It always comes back." That would be ridiculous. But in Bitcoin, that kind of loss is business as usual. And a real store of value should be something you can depend on in an emergency, not something you have to zoom out and rationalize while the price collapses. Here's the part almost nobody brings up. Store of value isn't a property of Bitcoin. It's a narrative about Bitcoin. A property is something that exists whether you believe in it or not. 21 million supply is a property. The halving schedule is a property. Using SHA-256 is a property. Block time is a property. These are technical facts. They don't require belief. They don't require adoption. They don't require a story. But store of value? That's not a property. That's a story people tell about Bitcoin. It's an interpretation, a slogan, a belief, a marketing line. And here's the mistake. People repeat the narrative so often that they start treating it like a built-in feature, as if store of value is coded into the protocol next to using SHA-256. It isn't. A narrative is not a property. A belief is not a feature. A slogan is not a function. And here's the uncomfortable truth. There is no such thing as a store of value in the way people talk about it. Not for Bitcoin, not for gold, not for art, wine, watches, or Pokemon cards. All of it is narrative. Humans telling stories about why something should hold value in the future. A store of value isn't a property, it's a narrative, a story. And Bitcoin's story is just louder, newer, and more aggressively marketed. If Bitcoin truly had a store of value property, you wouldn't need to cherry-pick timeframes to prove it. You wouldn't need to zoom out. You wouldn't need to ignore the crashes. You wouldn't need to rely on total past performance. Because if something truly had a store of value property, it wouldn't depend on speculative cycles, liquidity waves, hype cycles, reflexive feedback loops. That's not a property. That's market psychology. And Bitcoin's price is driven by exactly that: herd behavior, greater fool dynamics, and ideological conviction. Not fundamentals, not cash flows, not utility, not economic function. Just belief. So is Bitcoin a store of value? No. It's a narrative people repeat until they forget it's a narrative. And in another video, I'll break down the mechanics behind that narrative, the volatility, the liquidity cycles, and the psychology that drives the price. But for now, the point is simple. If a squirrel can't trust his acorns to still be there, he doesn't have a store of value. And neither do you.